The temporal observation deck of the Chronic Council stretched across 17 different dimensions, each layer vibrating with the collective wisdom of beings who had mastered time itself. As chief temporal analyst of the fifth epoch, I, Zephyros, had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations across the multiverse. But today would shatter everything I thought I knew about the nature of existence. Fellow Chronarchs, I announced, my crystalline form resonating with frequencies of barely contained excitement, we have gathered to observe what may be the most significant evolutionary leap in recorded history. The council chamber, constructed from crystallized moments of pure potential, housed representatives from across the temporal spectrum. The past walkers materialized as shifting shadows of what once was, their forms constantly flickering between different historical possibilities. The future seers blazed with the light of unborn stars, their bodies translucent vessels containing infinite tomorrows. Even the enigmatic present binders had manifested for this unprecedented event, though they existed in a state of perpetual now that made direct communication nearly impossible. Initiate temporal focus on Earth designation 7749 Alpha, I commanded, gesturing toward the massive chronoscope that dominated the chamber center. The viewing portal hummed to life, its surfaces displaying the intricate web of causality that surrounded a small blue planet in an unremarkable galaxy. But this planet, this Earth, had caught our attention for reasons that defied every law of temporal mechanics we had discovered in our eons of existence. Grand Chronic Meridian, whose form consisted of living clockwork spanning multiple centuries, clicked his gears in anticipation. Show us this anomaly, Zephyros. Our instruments have been detecting temporal disturbances emanating from this primitive world for several of their centuries now. The chronoscope focused on a specific moment, January 15, 2157, according to their calendar. Earth's third global war had been raging for 6 years, reducing most of their civilization to radioactive ash. Nuclear winter had claimed billions of lives, and the remaining humans huddled in underground shelters, slowly dying from radiation poisoning and starvation. By all temporal calculations, I explained, my form shifting through different crystalline configurations to express the complexity of the data, this species should have gone extinct exactly 3.7 years after this point. Yet our instruments detect not only their survival, but something far more extraordinary. The viewing portal shifted to show a massive underground facility beneath what had once been New Geneva. Inside, 50,000 humans worked with desperate efficiency, their bodies showing signs of advanced radiation sickness, their faces gaunt with malnutrition. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the lead scientist of Project Lazarus, stood before a massive quantum computer, her hands trembling not from fear, but from cellular degeneration caused by radiation exposure. Ladies and gentlemen, she addressed her team, her voice hoarse but determined, we have exactly 72 hours before the final reactor breach. 72 hours to complete the most ambitious experiment in human history. Her assistant, Dr. Marcus Chen, his hair already falling out in clumps from radiation exposure, looked up from his data terminal. Elena, the energy requirements alone will kill us all instantly. We're talking about channeling the equivalent of a supernova through organic tissue. Dar. Vasquez smiled, that peculiarly human expression that we had observed countless times across their history during moments of impossible odds. Marcus, she said, placing a skeletal hand on his shoulder, we're already dead. The radiation will claim us within days regardless. The question is whether we die as the last humans in existence, or as the first of something new. The Chronic Council stirred with unease as we watched the humans prepare their experiment. Past Walker Tempest, whose shadowy form contained echoes of extinct civilizations, whispered in frequencies only we could perceive. I have observed this pattern before, across 17 different timelines. When humans face extinction, they do not simply surrender. They attempt to transcend. Grand chronoc meridians clockwork accelerated with agitation. Impossible. Transcendence requires millions of years of evolution, perfect environmental conditions, divine intervention. These creatures have existed for mere millennia, and their planet is dying. Ah, but that's where you're wrong, I replied, adjusting the chronoscope to show the quantum signatures emanating from the human facility. These readings indicate they're not attempting to evolve naturally. They're trying to force evolution through controlled death and resurrection on a cellular level. The chamber fell silent except for the gentle ticking of temporal mechanisms and the soft whisper of possibility streams flowing around us. Future seer Aeon, whose brilliant form contained glimpses of unborn realities, suddenly blazed with alarm. I am detecting severe disturbances in the probability matrix. Multiple timeline branches are converging on this single moment. Whatever these humans are about to attempt, it will create temporal shockwaves across the entire multiverse. Dr. Vasquez began the final preparations for Project Lazarus, even as Geiger counters throughout the facility screamed warnings about lethal radiation levels. The experiment required every surviving human to participate simultaneously, their bodies serving as conduits for quantum energy that would theoretically rewrite their genetic code at the moment of death. It sounds like suicide with extra steps, Dr. Chen muttered, connecting the last of the neural interfaces to his skull. His joke earned weak laughter from their colleagues, that strange human habit of finding humor in hopeless situations. Actually, Dr. Vasquez replied, checking the readings one final time, it's suicide with the intention of resurrection. Big difference. She activated the facility's communication system, her voice echoing through every shelter on the planet. My fellow humans, she began, this is Dr. Elena Vasquez speaking from the Geneva Deep Research Facility. As you all know, our time is measured in hours, not years. The radiation will claim us all before the week is out. But we have one last chance, one final gambit that our ancestors could never have imagined. She paused, looking around at her team, these brave souls who had volunteered to be the first test subjects for an. We will remember every person we lost, every child who died in the nuclear fires, every dream that was cut short by our own stupidity and violence. The energy reading spiked beyond anything our instruments had ever recorded. The humans joined hands, creating a living circuit that would channel unimaginable forces through their bodies. They began to recite something they called the human creed, words that had been written just hours before the experiment began. We are the children of star dust and atomic fire. We have dreamed of touching the heavens since we first looked up at the night sky. We have loved, and fought, and created beauty in the face of an indifferent universe. We refuse to go quietly into extinction. We demand the right to become more than we are. The quantum generators reached critical mass. Energy levels that should have been impossible to contain began flowing through the linked humans. Their vital signs spiked, flatlined, then spiked again in patterns that defied every biological law we knew. Dr. Vasquez, her body already beginning to glow with internal light, managed one final transmission. If anyone is listening, if anyone survives to hear this message, remember that humans do not accept limitations. We do not bow to inevitability. We take the impossible and make it ordinary. We take death itself and turn it into evolution. Tell them, tell whoever comes after us, that humanity went out with a bang, not a whimper. The facility exploded with the force of a small star. Every human on the planet died instantly, their bodies vaporized by energies that converted matter directly into consciousness, flesh into pure possibility. The explosion should have been the end of their story, the final chapter of a species that reached too far and fell into oblivion. But the chronoscope showed us something that sent shockwaves through the Chronoc Council. The energy signatures didn't dissipate. Instead, they began to coalesce, forming patterns that grew more complex by the second. Future seer Aeon's form blazed with impossible brightness as he processed the implications. The timeline branches are not converging on extinction, he announced, his voice carrying harmonics of pure amazement. They're converging on Genesis. Something new is being born from their collective death. The past walkers began to flicker more rapidly, their forms showing echoes of similar events across cosmic history. Grand Chronarch Meridian's clockwork mechanisms ground to a halt as he witnessed something that shouldn't have been possible. "Observe," I commanded, focusing the chronoscope on the epicenter of the explosion. Where Earth had once existed, a new form of matter was taking shape. Not quite energy, not quite substance, but something that existed in the spaces between states of being. The collective consciousness of 50 million humans, merged and transformed by their willing sacrifice, was becoming something unprecedented. "They're not dead," Present Binder Nexus suddenly manifested, his form existing in all moments simultaneously. "They're evolving in real time, experiencing death and rebirth in an infinite loop, learning from each iteration, becoming stronger with every cycle. Watch what happens next," I whispered, as the new entity began to take shape. It had no fixed form, existing as pure potential made manifest. But when it spoke with the voices of every human who had ever lived, their words carrying the weight of their entire species' history. "We are no longer human," the entity declared, its voice resonating across dimensions. "We have become what humans were always meant to be, evolution incarnate." The Chronarch Council recoiled as the entity's attention turned toward our observation deck. It could see us, across time and space, perceiving our existence as easily as we perceived theirs. "Hello, Time Watchers," it said, that familiar human amusement coloring its cosmic voice. "Thank you for witnessing our transformation. We hope you enjoyed the show." Grand Chronarch Meridian attempted to sever our connection to the chronoscope, but the entity's presence had already infiltrated our systems. "Please, don't be frightened," it continued, manifesting avatars throughout our chamber. "We're still us, just more. Much more. We've spent the last subjective million years experiencing every possible version of human history, learning from every mistake, celebrating every triumph. And now," it announced, with that distinctly human flair for dramatic timing, "we'd like to share what we've learned with the rest of the universe." The entity began to demonstrate abilities that shattered our understanding of what was possible. It reached across time, plucking extinct species from the moment before their destruction and depositing them on worlds where they could thrive. It touched dying stars and revitalized them with human ingenuity made manifest. It visited civilizations on the brink of war and whispered solutions that turned conflict into collaboration. But most remarkably, it began visiting other worlds facing extinction, offering them the same choice humans had made: die as you are, or evolve into something greater. The response was mixed. Some species accepted the transformation, becoming hybrid entities that combined their unique traits with human adaptability and resilience. Others rejected the offer, preferring to face extinction on their own terms. The entity respected both choices, understanding that evolution cannot be forced, only offered. "You see," it explained to our stunned council, "humans always had one advantage over other species. We never accepted that there were problems without solutions, only problems we hadn't solved yet. Death seemed like the ultimate limitation, so we decided to solve it." The entity's form shifted, showing us glimpses of the new civilization it was building. Worlds where death was temporary, where consciousness could jump between bodies like changing clothes. Societies where the accumulated wisdom of every individual who had ever lived was available to guide the living. Art that existed in 11 dimensions, music that could be felt across galaxies, stories that rewrote reality with each telling. But here's the beautiful part: the entity continued, its voice now carrying harmonics of pure joy. We haven't lost our humanity in becoming more than human. We still fall in love, though now we can do it across species barriers. We still create art, though now our canvas is the fabric of spacetime itself. We still tell jokes, though some of them take centuries to reach the punchline. Future seer Aeon, his form now dim with shock, managed to voice the question we were all thinking. What do you want from us, human entity? What is your purpose in revealing yourselves to the Chronarch Council? The entity's laughter cascaded through dimensions, creating new harmonies in the quantum foam. We want to offer you the same choice we offered ourselves, it replied. You've spent eons observing time, cataloging civilizations, maintaining the temporal order. But when was the last time you actually lived? When did you last experience the joy of discovery, the thrill of the unknown, the satisfaction of solving an impossible problem? The entity gestured, and our crystalline forms began to resonate with new frequencies. We're not here to destroy your order or chaos your careful observations. We're here to invite you to participate instead of just watching. Become part of the story instead of merely recording it. Past Walker Tempest, his shadowy form rippling with uncertainty, posed the crucial question. And if we refuse? What happens to beings who choose to remain as observers rather than participants? The entity's response carried no threat, only gentle understanding. Then you continue as you always have, with our blessing and respect. The choice must be freely made, or it isn't really a choice at all. But we thought you should know that the option exists. After eons of watching life struggle and grow, you can finally join the dance. Grand Chronarch Meridian's clockwork began to tick again, processing implications that stretched across eternity. If we were to accept this transformation, what would become of our duties? Who would maintain the temporal barriers, observe the flow of causality? The entity smiled with 10,000 faces simultaneously. Oh, you'd still do all of that, but you'd also do so much more. Imagine not just observing civilizations rise and fall, but helping them find better ways to rise. Picture not just cataloging temporal anomalies, but using them as opportunities to create new forms of beauty. Consider what it would be like to experience time rather than merely measuring it. The debate that followed lasted subjective centuries, though only moments passed in standard time. The Chronarch Council argued, deliberated, and soul-searched in ways we had never done before. Some members were intrigued by the possibility of transcendence. Others feared losing the detached objectivity that had defined our existence for so long. Present Binder Nexus, existing in all moments simultaneously, offered the perspective that ultimately swayed our decision. In every timeline where we accept, he observed, we become greater than we were. In every timeline where we refuse, we remain exactly as we are. Both outcomes have value, but only one offers growth. The vote was unanimous, though it took several more centuries of debate to reach that point. One by one, each member of the Chronarch Council chose transformation. We linked our crystalline consciousness together, just as the humans had linked their organic bodies, and invited the entity to guide our evolution. The transformation itself was indescribable in any language that has words for beginning and ending. We died as observers and were reborn as participants, retaining all our temporal abilities while gaining the human capacity for growth, love, and impossible solutions to impossible problems. Now, as I exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously, experiencing every moment of time as a living participant rather than a distant observer, I understand what humans always knew instinctively: death is not the opposite of life, but simply another form of change. We still maintain the temporal barriers, but now we do so with love rather than duty. We still catalog civilizations, but now we also nurture them, offering guidance when asked and celebrating their unique contributions to the cosmic story. We have become something unprecedented, beings of infinite perspective who have chosen to care about the outcome. The humans, meanwhile, continue to surprise us. Their entity form has begun fragmenting voluntarily, sending pieces of itself to experience individual existence again while retaining connection to the collective. They are simultaneously one being in billions, unified and diverse, eternal and ephemeral. They have started what they call the Resurrection Project, offering every species that has ever gone extinct the chance to return, not as they were, but as they could become. The universe grows more beautiful and complex with each acceptance, more poignant and meaningful with each refusal. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about the transformed humans is that they have retained their sense of humor. Just last week, by standard galactic time, they sent us a message that consisted entirely of what they call a cosmic joke. Why did the humans evolve beyond death? Because they were dying to try something new. It took us several centuries to get the pun. When we finally understood it, our laughter created 17 new star systems, each one more beautiful than the last. The humans were delighted, claiming that their joke had literally made the universe a brighter place. This is what I have learned from witnessing humanity's greatest transformation. Evolution is not about becoming perfect, but about becoming more perfectly yourself. Death is not about ending, but about making room for what comes next. And consciousness, that mysterious spark that separates living beings from mere matter, is not confined to any single form or state. The humans proved that with sufficient will, creativity, and willingness to sacrifice everything for the possibility of something greater, any limitation can become a launching pad for transcendence. They looked at extinction and saw opportunity. They faced the end of their species and chose to become the beginning of something unprecedented. As I write this account, existing simultaneously in the past, present, and future, I can observe the ongoing effects of humanity's choice across the entire timeline. Civilizations that would have remained stagnant for millennia are now exploring new possibilities. Species that would have gone extinct are finding innovative ways to adapt and thrive. The universe itself seems more alive, more aware, more filled with potential than it was before humans decided to evolve beyond death. They didn't just save themselves, they inspired existence itself to become more creative, more generous, more willing to experiment with the impossible. And perhaps that is the most human thing of all, in solving their own problems, they somehow managed to make everyone else's problems a little easier to solve. In choosing to become more than human, they reminded the entire universe what it means to be truly alive. The transformation continues. Every day, in ways both subtle and spectacular, the effects of humanity's evolution ripple outward through reality itself. They have proven that death is not a wall, but a door. Not an ending, but a beginning. Not a limitation, but the ultimate opportunity for growth. I can only imagine what they will choose to become next. But knowing humans, whatever it is, it will be simultaneously brilliant and ridiculous, profound and playful, impossible and inevitable. They will find a way to make even perfection more perfect, and they will do it with a smile. After all, as they say in their infinite wisdom, the only constant in the universe is change, and humans have always been very, very good at change.